Hello, let's get this started. Now, in this session, I'm going to talk about how to prepare for legal reasoning. Let me start by saying I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer and an MBA, but therefore, my perspective is from an outside perspective of someone who had to learn when I start looking at the CLAT prep. I did not have any legal background, I did not understand legal reasoning, but it was then I learned in this last sort of 12 years. And many of these learnings that I'm going to share with you is based on my learning as well. In addition to that, I've spoken to toppers. You would have seen the many of those interviews that I've taken. I have and I've got an understanding in terms of what do they do with respect to legal reasoning prep. And I've also seen students who eventually got very good rank who had struggled with legal reasoning. And some of the things that they did, I think made sense. And those are the things I would like to share. One of the things is that I've spoken to legal faculty members and looked at their perspective. So it's like a collection of ideas, my own personal sense of how to do well in legal reasoning, the perspective from the toppers, and the perspective from legal faculty members as well. So when you look at this legal reasoning, and I'm talking with respect to CLAT, when you look at legal reasoning, there are kind of three aspects that you have to deal with. You know how the legal reasoning question looks like. You are given a passage and followed by a question, which is largely will be some facts that is given, and then there are four answer choice that is given to you, right? So obviously, the first thing that I have to do is to understand the legal principle. When I look at the legal principle is given, and I have to essentially make a decision at the end of the day. This is more in terms of decision making. Legal reasoning is decision making. You have to make a decision, and you have to. So therefore, I need to understand the criteria of those principles, or the rules, so to speak, of which I can use then onto the fact. Understand which facts are relevant, which facts are irrelevant, then come up with a decision. Therefore, the key, of course, is to understand the legal principle, right? Understanding what is a principle, understanding elements of the principle, the criteria of the principle, and then apply this and answer the question. Therefore, legal reasoning is fundamentally based on logic. And any lawyer would say that logic plays a very, very crucial role in the lawyer's career, in any legal career. After all, lawyers make arguments. Arguments are logical arguments based on facts, and then coming out with conclusion based on those facts, and countering the conclusion drawn by someone else, or countering certain facts. So that's what you do as a lawyer. So therefore, it is based on logic. However, then we have this huge problem, which is the problem with respect to the legal language. Now, I don't have any formal training on law, so my sort of training for law is self-taught. uh, Taught myself by reading stuff or watching videos and looking at lectures taken by other faculty members. So I'm sort of a self-taught. So one of the things that I found out when I look at this legal language, one, I found this legal language and very archaic. I mean, the constructions of the sentence is not something that I'll do use in my day-to-day life, right? All these are the sort of very archaic, and which means trying to decipher some of these sentences was a challenge to me as well. And I'm sure that this might be a challenge for you as well. So some of the time I've seen other things that I've found is that I've got French terms, Latin terms that is used in describing things. Subjudice, right? Okay. Now I need to understand the meaning of legal maxims sometimes. These are Latin usually. Words keep popping up. The the third thing is the vocabulary. I mean, let's take for example the word stay. I have always understood stay in one way, but when it comes to the legal language, stay is something else. So this was a one, and to top it all, it's actually very dense. I might even call it dull. Okay, some people may not like it, but I think this is very dense. And these passages that is given to us are passages taken from sources which is used as legal language, and those legal languages presented to us. And one of the huge challenges that we'll end up facing is that I have to figure out a way in which to manage this legal language. That's the challenge. The third, of course, is questions. So when you look at these questions, there are two type of questions. One is where the facts is given to us, and it's about application of the legal principle onto the fact. But I've also seen question which is like RC based questions, or very similar to reading comprehension. Just look at which of the following is incorrect from the information that is given in the passage. So let's say out of the 40 questions, typically what you'll see is that maybe about 10 questions is RC based, and about the 30 questions is the fact principle based. So about one fourth of the question, about 25% is RC based, and the 75% of the question is fact based. Now, this reading comprehension based question is the skill set that I have to use, is the skill set that I learn in, let's say, I or use in reading comprehension, which can be managed so long as we can understand this legal language, right? And comprehend the legal principle, understand the criteria within the legal principle. Even without that, I think that with that we can navigate this one. In this additional the question, I also have to read the facts. When I'm reading the facts, I have to figure out what are the information that is relevant for the decision to be made, and what are the features of aspect which is relevant for the decision to be made. So in this sense, legal reasoning can be very overwhelming. But one thing that I've seen across board, once people get a handle of this legal reasoning, the process is amazing. You feel like you are a lawyer, feel like you are a judge, and a lot of people are very excited to solve legal reasoning questions. And most of these toppers that I found, almost all of them at some point in time, if I ask them what is your favorite section of CLAT, they will say legal reasoning. And I have found this fascinating. And if I look at when I see any of these faculty members of legal reasoning, they're like, "Oh, this is the most amazing session. This is what CLAT has to be. CLAT should only be legal reasoning." So even with all the challenges that we have, and we have, it is still possible to navigate and manage this legal reasoning, right? It is possible. So when I look at, given that context, if I look at the CLAT in 2022 and look at those 8 passages, let's first look at dense factor. Like, for to understand the dense factor, I've used this grade, right? So this is grade uses formula. You don't worry about the formula that is used. There are many grade level that are used. I've just used this grade, Flesh King grade level. Basically, what this grade level says is that value. Let's assume that the value is 12. The grade, the dense factor is 12. That means someone who is in 12th grade should be able to read it comfortably. So if the value is 10, someone who is in 10th grade should be able to read it comfortably, so long as, of course, the person understands the language. So that does not mean that something is a 16 grade, which means someone who's done graduation would be able to read it comfortably. Does not mean that the graduate is going to read it comfortably, or that you cannot read it. That just one indicator, right? And when I look at the dense factor, you've got only sort of 2 passages which is in your sort of comfort zone. Everything else is pretty high grade. We have got something which is 19.3. 19.3. So therefore, this passage is going to have sentences which are really long. Words in the sentence is going to be long, constructed in a very complicated manner, and we'll have to navigate those things. So this is one sort of challenge that we'll have to handle. And the other thing that you see is, look at the areas. You've got a couple from constitutional law, a couple from marriage law, one from contract law, one from international law, or international domestic law combined. So that's sort of it's kind of theories, couple of theories. I will probably don't want to call it international law, but maybe theory of legal theories would be better. One on sustainable development, one on rate. So the topics are also diverse within the context of legal term. Now, if I understand a little bit of constitutional law, or if I understand a little bit of contract law, if I understand the language that is typically used in contract law, I should be able to navigate these passages better, right? The challenge, at least in the CLAT, is not with respect to the volume that I have to read. It's all in the range of 200s. Though in the earlier CLAT, which is in 2020 and I think 2021, sometimes you've seen passages which has got 400, 500 words. But at least in CLAT 2022, what we have seen is that the challenge is not in terms of the volume that you have to read. The challenge that we have in terms of diversity and the density of the information that is given to us. Now the questions is, like I told you, this will be totaling about 20, 20 this will be 31. If I total this, it will be 9 question is passage based, and about 31 question is principle based. So to navigate this, we have to do a few things. So before that, let me just give an example of one passage that came in the CLAT last year. I'm not going to solve this. So you've got this passage on the left-hand side, question on the right-hand side. You look at the passage. The passage says there are two principal theories on the relationship between international law and domestic law, monism and dualism. The monistic theory maintains that the subject of two systems of law, that is international law and municipal law, are essentially one. The monist theory asserts that international law and municipal law are fundamentally the same in nature and arise from the same science of law and are manifestation of a single conception of law. The followers of this theory view international law and municipal law as a part of the universal body of legal rules binding all human beings collectively or singly. In a monist system, international law does not need to be incorporated into domestic law because international law immediately becomes incorporated in domestic legal system upon ratification of an international treaty. And then you've got stuff that is mentioned, what happens, statute of international criminal court, therefore can be directly applied, and so on and so forth. So I need to comprehend this. Not difficult, but I have to comprehend this information and then go and read this fact, which is huge. Talks about X as a country and Y as a country, which is developed, X is developing, and we have to then figure out whether it is monist or dualist, which means I need to understand the criteria which makes something monist and the criteria that makes it dualist, and apply that criteria onto the fact and answer that question. And we have questions like these as well. Which of the following statements incorrect? This is more like a reading comprehension question. Now, these, ladies and gentlemen, are the challenge, but we can handle this challenge. All right. So now gets into what are the things that we must do. One, of course, we have to know and be comfortable with legal language, or legalese, as they say. Right? And which is probably the reason why many of the legal faculty says that some sort of a legal knowledge helps, and which, as a personally, I don't consider that to be too important, but I understand where the faculty members are coming from, saying that if you, for example, if I know stuff, right, if I know what a stay is, then when I'm reading the next time, I can understand it better and it makes sense. For example, if it's a passage on social sciences that is given to me in reading comprehension, or let's say passages on philosophy that is given to me in reading comprehension, if I have a little bit of prior knowledge of that the type of passages, or I've read similar passages in the past, or I've got at least some sense of understanding what the topic is, then if I read it, I may able to comprehend better. So therefore, in that logic, I sincerely believe that comfortable level with legal language makes a lot of sense. So which is why I'm sure that you've got material which actually teaches law, which is, I actually think that that should not be done, because that is something that you're going to learn in the law school. Why are you learning legal knowledge today? But reading those stuff does help, right? So which is what I believe that a lot of the legal faculty members would have already told you, right? So be comfortable with legal stuff. So I'm sure that you've gone through reading your books. You just go through each of this law and read them. Though in the CLAT they might give you topics or areas that are not there in books, because law is of course very vast, but still I think a basic understanding of those stuff will help. So obviously use your books to read. You can also look at legal current affairs. No, legal is a very dynamic field. Laws get created, laws get interpreted, and the cases are happening. And there are websites, I'm sure, that allows you to read articles, especially current affairs. It's obviously going to help you in your general knowledge as well. So, or let's say that simply put, you can check with your faculty which are the good websites to pick up one website which has got current affairs in a nice format and use that and read them. Or you can join our Telegram channel. We put a lot of update on a regular basis. I'll put a link in the description box below, and you can check that up and ensure that you are comfortable. As a habit, you're reading this on a regular basis. So That's one. The so that naturally should take care of your comfort level in this. So as a weekly task, ensure that you're reading this article, maybe, or let's say about 6 articles, 5 articles every week, and that should be good enough, right? Those This is 5 6 articles. That is one thing that you'll have to do, right? The second is your ability to apply principle onto the fact, your application skills. And this is, so for this, and I have and many toppers, I will not say everyone, but most of them said the one thing that they had that really helped them was the old pattern. Now, remember the old pattern. When I say old pattern, I'm looking at the question that came between 2008 CLAT till 2019 CLAT, where you got a short principle that is given to you and a fact is given to you, and there is a question that is given to you with 4 answer choices. These are not, let's say, 200, 300 words. This will be about 50 or 50, 60 words. So, the reason why this old pattern has is that I can go through a whole lot of principle. The volume of principle that I can go through is huge. Eventually, please understand, even though the passage has got 200 words or 300 words, is that one principle, it explained in a little more detail, but the skill set is exactly the same. So if you actually do the whole pattern questions, you will see that your score in the legal reasoning section will improve, because doing the old pattern questions will help you cover much more variety of questions, much more large number of principles, and then you'll develop these skills. So if you're not doing the old pattern, even though the CLAT does not ask all pattern question, the doing the old pattern questions will definitely help. It is crucial that you do it. It is important that you do it, because that is going to build your skills. And then, of course, the third thing that you would obviously want to do is practice as much as possible on the current pattern. And I'm sure that you have access, you're taking the mock test regularly, which you must do. You've got section tests, you may have topic tests. If you're a part of some classroom course, then you will get stuff like this. So your key thing, if these two happens, the first two happens, then it's about applying those things in the CLAT like question. So you must do these two things very diligently. The first one I will strongly recommend is to be comfortable with legal language. This is, for me, I can say that there's a personal journey for me as well, with no sort of legal background, and I had to sort of self teach myself. Self, I have to self. I'm self-taught. I taught myself looking at videos on YouTube about what is contract and what is nuisance, and every time I have to I don't understand a particular concept. Let's say I came across something that this time I just don't understand what this means. Okay, so I'm just putting in on the YouTube channel, on YouTube, just put that, search it. I find a lot of videos. I teach myself, and that helps. That's how I have learned. And over time I believe that it is manageable, right? It's manageable. It is not difficult, just that you just start to be a tad comfortable with it, and I'm sure that most of you are. And then you look at this second thing that you want to do is don't ignore the old pattern. It's a great when it very good when it comes to learning, right? The only difference between old pattern and new pattern is the old pattern is principle is one sentence very clearly there. In the new pattern, there a lot of information, so I need to have an extra skill of identifying the principle from the passage. Now that's a skill. So that skill is what you are trying to look at this. Your ability to identify the principle from those texts, from used text. But once you've identified the principle, then the application is very similar to the sort of the old pattern. So keep this preparation absolutely simple, and I'm sure that you will do well in legal reasoning section. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you so much for watching this video. Goodbye.